Welcome, everyone, to the Socal Car Scene Podcast, the exclusive place for coverage of car culture in Southern California and the personalities that drive it. I'm your host, Dean Marash. Welcome, everyone, to the Socal Car Scene Podcast, the exclusive place for coverage of car culture in Southern California and the personalities that drive it. I'm your host, Dean Marash, and behind the scenes is my amazing son, Jay Marash. He's the director, producer of this show, and a lot of other things that I can't mention. But please, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel because you never want to miss one of these great shows. Joining us today is Sean Lee. But first, we need to let you know that this podcast is brought to you by our good friends at Socal Classic Car Storage and C-Tech. Also, it's really important that we remind you that we're now on Patreon. For those of you that aren't familiar, Patreon is a great website that supports independent podcasts like the Socal Car Scene by helping them with fundraising via subscriptions. If you're an avid listener to these episodes, and come on, let's face it, we know you are, we humbly ask you to consider becoming a premier member to our show. In exchange for your support, you'll get to see outtakes of me goofing up on screen. It happens all the time. You'll also have access to episodes one day before they premiere, and you'll get to see extended interviews from our guests like Sean. Sign up today at patreon.com/the Socal Car Scene or click on the link in the description. And without further ado, let me introduce you to our very, very special guest, Sean Lee. Sean is a man who was born in Taiwan and came to America when he was just a young man. He grew up in LA and, like so many of us, struggled through his teenage years to find his way. He joined Air Tiger Express, a shipping company, early in his career, and thanks to some awesome mentoring and, of course, a lot of hard work on his own part, he became their top global salesperson. Eventually, Lee leveraged his success into a vice president role and received an ownership stake in this incredibly awesome company that's privately held. Since then, his career has been nothing but successful, and that has provided him the opportunity to be very active in the car scene. Maybe his greatest accomplishment, though, has little to do with cars, is that he is a very philanthropic individual and started an incredibly successful charity in 2012, the Purist Group, which provides toys for thousands of needy children. Sean Lee, welcome to the Socal Car Scene. Thanks so much for coming, man.
Thank you guys for having me here.
Oh, it's our pleasure. Yeah, it's our pleasure. You're not an Orange County guy, but welcome to the fire zone, right? Sorry about that.
Very unfortunate. I mean, I wish everybody's okay after, the fires gets put out,
Yeah.
It's kind of scary.
Yeah, we just had one of our customers show up and he said, so weird, without electricity. Been down for 2 days. No, this is the third day, he said, and you just have no idea how upsetting that is to the whole operation of the household, the garage, the car building, everything is just. So he had to drop off another car down here at Socal Classic because he was so worried about being off the grid electrically.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. I think they have to evacuate like 71,000 people.
Yeah, incredible.
Because of this fire.
But we appreciate you braving the smoke and the fire to get down here, man. So tell us, how did you get started in the Socal car scene? I mean, you obviously, long time ago, your family and you moved from Taiwan. But what got you started in the cars?
So when I was younger, actually, I raced motorcycles just for fun. So if you read a little bit about my story, I was abused by my parents. My father and my mother divorced when I was 5.
Oh, man.
So then immediately after that, my mom came to the United States. Then my custody belonged to my father. I stayed with him in Taiwan from 5 till age 14. Throughout that period of time, and he's very physically abusive.
Oh, no.
Yeah, pretty much almost on a weekly basis. When we talk about physical abuse, it's not like slap on the wrist type of thing. It's basically throwing you onto the wall and bash your head against table. Yeah, type brutal. Yeah, it's quite brutal. Then at age 14, he chose to remarry again and didn't want to have anything to do with me. Actually, it was his wife, girlfriend at the time. So that's when he paid my mom a lot of money to give my custody to my mom.
Right.
That's how I came to the United States at age 14. So my whole life from 5 to 14 was hoping to see my mom again. So at age 14, I finally got a wish granted. And later on, my mom told me, if it wasn't for your father paying me money, I would never want to see you. That's why I left. Yeah. So at 17, I ran away from home. Then from there on, and I guess I have a death wish. I just love speed. So I started, at the time my transportation was a scooter, and I'll ride that scooter everywhere. But back in the day, if you remember, there's no helmet law. So I was hauling asses on the scooters, and that's why I started enjoying the speed, because also at the time was very native in terms of how to manage emotion-wise, because I don't feel like I'm wanted by anybody.
So you're not afraid of anything.
Yeah, not afraid of anything.
What if you got nothing to lose, right?
Yeah, exactly. So then I started riding faster and faster on motorcycle, and from there into motorcycle racing on Willow Springs. And after that, I took 2 major crashes on Willow Springs that broke every single bones in my body. Yeah, and after that, I kind of gave up on motorcycle and started way into driving cars. But I still enjoy the speed, but I never know how to properly handle cars. So I started learning how to build cars with more power. Then I started taking them to the canyons. Then I crashed it again in the canyon, flip over the car and catch on fire. Yeah.
This is like a movie.
It is kind of fun.
It's like a bad movie.
It's like a bad version of Fast and Furious.
Yeah, like a bad version of Fast and Furious. But you're starring in your own life movie, right?
Yeah. Then from there on, learn how to build car right, then learn how to drive the car right. So then I start buying a lower horsepower car to figure I'll learn how to handle lower horsepower car in terms of...
Which is what all the experts say, right?
Yeah.
Learn with a slower car first.
Exactly.
And understand the dynamics and how to set up for each turn and so on and so forth.
So that's when I bought into a Toyota A86. That's almost maybe 25, 30 years ago. And it was a Toyota Corolla. And I started learning how to drive again. It was rated at 115 horsepower, but when you get to the wheel, it's probably looking at 80, 85 horsepower, which is... Then from there, I met a group of car guys, and they teach me how to drive correctly, slowly lead to my passion for cars. Don't get me wrong, I still have a lot of passion for motorcycle. I still ride them, but just not the way I used to ride them.
Well, it sounds like you had a death wish with motorcycles, and you realized after a couple crashes you wanted to live.
Yeah.
So you thought, well, I'll put 4 wheels under me. And then somebody grabbed you and said, hey, look, you want to learn or not? Or do you want to go kill yourself in a car too?
Yeah.
So great story. Wow. Fascinating. So the other thing that I've noticed about your car collection, if you will, I don't know too many of your cars, but I saw the car that was featured. I think it's a Skyline.
Yeah.
Is it an R31? Is that correct?
It's an R31 wagon.
Tell us a little bit about that car. How important is that car? Is that flagship car that represents who you are? Or how does that fit into your story?
No, but that car is very unique. First of all, that car is okay. So that car, R31 wagon, people most recognize was the R32 GTR. Right. That car actually was given the name of Godzilla. So what happens? That car went into all the races, right? Back in the days, I think they went into 54 or 40. Don't hold me to the number. They went to all the races. They only lost 2 races. Yeah, and that's where they earned the name Godzilla coming from. Then R31 wagon, it's a Skyline brand, but people think Skyline is always related to performance brand. Actually, it's not. So when Nissan and Datsun acquired Skyline name, they simply it's creating a luxury brand for Nissan themselves, which is later on Skyline for US it turned into Infiniti.
Oh, is that right? So
yeah.
Infiniti came from Skyline, which was a luxury brand of Nissan and Datsun.
Yeah, earlier it's Datsun, then become Nissan. So so I just trying to including all the names at once so I don't miss them. But so Skyline basically is their Infiniti badge under the Nissan brand. That's what.
But you could never buy a Skyline in the United States. They never exported to the United States.
They never did.
No.
So this car, that R31 wagon, was here based on the 25-year rule. So any car that's older than 25 years old, you can officially import it in. So that car was kind of unique. It's probably the only, I know there's one other one recently. It was probably the only first Skyline R31 wagon in the United States. That's with the period correct motor, directly original number matching motors in the car. For a while, those cars are very cheap in Japan, so they get butchered. a lot, and now it's so hard to find original ones. So this one has original motor, original transmissions, original paint, original body, original dash.
What strikes me about that car is I've been to Japan a couple of times, and for Japan, that looks like a very big car.
They are.
Relative to what you see on the streets.
Yes,
You know what I mean? Like
yes.
the roads are really narrow. 2 lanes is fairly typical.
Yeah.
And, of course, you're on the wrong side of the road, but I look at that car and I'm like, wow, that must have been a big one.
Yeah.
It's like our big station wagons of the 70s,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know how the last owner in Japan they're able to. First of all, you saw the car is actually pretty long.
It is.
Yeah, you do need a garage to be able to fit that. In Japan, there's not that many. That's why most people drive the K car. They're shorter on wheelbase. They maximize usage of the room. That car was pretty long and very narrow and very beautiful line. But it's like you said, it's a pretty large car for the street of Japan. And the last guy did a good job keeping
Beautiful,
it.
beautiful car.
Yeah.
So it begs the question: is your heart in JDM, if that's the right terminology, or is there another genre of cars that you would say where your heart's at today? Is that your past, where your passions were, or is that your current?
So I have quite a few different cars. I have about maybe 20, 30 cars.
Okay.
I think when I was younger, so I started out with JDM car because they're cheaper to play with and deal with. From there on, when I get a little older, I made some money. I started going to the European car, the BMW, the Mercedes, the Bentleys, the Porsches.
Right.
For a while, I got sidetracked, went to Italian, and I found out that
They're even more expensive.
I learned a new phrase: is you drive them, they break. You don't drive them, they break. Or I understand that I really don't want to spend that much money keep on fixing car because I drive my car to the track a lot, and I use my car a lot, almost every week. Even till today, almost every month, I at least do 2 track days. With one with my cars.
So you must know Martina Kwan pretty well, and Dwayne DeMann.
Yeah.
Martina's been on our show a couple of times. We've been trying to get Dwayne on, but he's been pretty busy setting up their school up there, the DK Racing School.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you guys know them pretty well.
Yeah, Martina's actually was referred by other Purist member, and that's how we met. She has been very, very active in terms of a charity and in the community.
Awesome.
She is really good.
She's a smart lady with a lot going on. So Dwayne's business is Vision Motorsports, is that correct?
Yeah. But I don't know Dwayne that well. I think I met him like once or twice. But Martina, I met her quite a few times. Yeah.
She's great. So we'd love to have people like that are in the racing scene, that are really plugged in, that are entrepreneurs, that are really trying to help other people really get to know their own car or really develop, potentially a career path safely, as opposed to your approach, which was, I don't know, I hate to say it, but it
totally wrong.
Well, the movie Death Wish.
Yeah,
it makes me think of that. And you're like, damn it, I survived. Or maybe you were saying, wait a minute, I think I want to survive. Which was it?
Yeah, it's not a proper thing to do. Kids out there, do not drive your car in the canyon. Or mom and dad, if you let your kid listen to this part of the podcast, mute it. Not a good thing to do. Don't go fast in the canyon.
This is a public service message for those of you out there under 20.
Police officers, I'm actually really, really good. I don't have any ticket for many years.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood.
Yeah. So you're a Socal man now, right? I mean, not necessarily native here, but you're kind of SoCal and you're LA now.
Yeah.
So what's the vibe in LA in the car scene? We're here in Orange County. We got our own scene. But how would you characterize LA's car scene? It might be a little bit difficult because of the pandemic, but is there a way? How would you,
So LA,
what's going on?
I mean, I've been to a lot of different states because Purist has a lot of different members in different states, right? If you go to certain states, you only see one genre of the cars. So let's say you go to one of the place, they're mainly classic cars only.
Yep.
Another one would be purely Mustang or purely American domestic, or certain areas only targets towards European cars and McLaren, Ferrari. LA is one of the unique places that you have everything. And you have lowriders, you have classic truck, you have classic cars, you have a lot of a different group of people that for the love of car, they actually come together. Like Cars and Coffee, it's a great event. You see all different genres of car, Japanese car, Italian car, all showed up in one place. People appreciate each other's creations or how they maintain the cars, restoring their cars. So LA has one, I believe, globally, LA currently has one of the most richest car cultures in the world.
And you don't mean by monetarily, you mean diversity.
Diversity
in the interests.
Yes.
The richest. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
And also knowledge of the people here, that understanding about their car is massive. It's incredible. Maybe you have a guy that loves RX-7 rotaries. They know every in and out of that car. They do research. They don't know how to read Japanese, but they buy their friend lunch to translate this for me.
No kidding.
Then they go online and try to go to Japanese eBay and order a bunch of parts and get it shipped here. It's like, wow, you appreciate the passion.
So the car craziness level here might be, top notch compared to some other parts of this country and certainly the world.
Yeah, because you have the weather to support it, right? It's the East Coast guys right now, or Canadian guys.
They're shut down.
They're shutting down. They're getting a car ready for winter. They're going back to the SUV, putting on a snow tire. Or their sports car gets parked for next 5 months, 4 months.
Unless they're shipping it out to Thermal or one of the car clubs out in the desert, right?
Yeah,
so that's a new place for all the cool kids,
Yeah, that's 1%er, and that's different.
Yeah.
95%, 99% of car guy couldn't afford to do that.
And so let's talk a little bit about wrenching. I grew up that way. My reason why I'm so passionate is because my dad always had way too many cars. There were always bucket of bolts. He was always getting deals, dragging the things home. Most of the time they didn't run. So me and my brothers and my sisters, there were 5 of us, we all had to know how to work on cars. We were always driving a different car, it seemed like every couple of months.
Yeah.
So I was very comfortable at 10, 11, 12, learning how to turn wrenches. Do you like to work with your hands?
Yeah, I do.
Do you do your own builds? Are you a builder, a designer? How would you characterize yourself?
So like certain cars, like right now, mostly JDM cars, I still try to build it myself. I work on it myself. I enjoyed it, because back in the day when I was really poor, I have no money, I have to learn that process. I have to know how to bleed a brake, how to change out a brake pad, and only through a process, I think a car guy will know what works and what doesn't work. Then of course, you learn through trial and error. Like the first time I bleed my brake, I almost killed myself. And the cars went, right? Then you learn, they got to bleed from the furthest out.
Again, you're still alive. So let's do that again.
Yeah, you got to bleed from this corner first, then this tire. And you can always do it from the furthest away from you first. But you have to learn that process. You look at back then. There's no YouTube, right? I'm 50 this year. Like 30 years ago, there's no YouTube.
Me too.
Yeah, you had to call some friend. The friend said, "Yeah, see that little nuts? Very simple. 8 millimeter. Untied it. Have somebody press the brake pedal. It comes right out." And
can I tell you a little trick when I was a kid?
Yeah.
If my dad wasn't around or somebody wasn't knowledgeable, I would call the parts store, Monument Car Parts in Pleasant. Hey man, I think I'm looking for some rotors, but hey, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So I'd always pretend like I was going to buy a part, but then
Yeah.
the most knowledgeable people were the guys at the parts counter.
Yeah.
Always.
Local auto parts store. They were best friends.
Yeah, they were my best buddies. And then when you got the short shrift or you pissed them off, you were really in trouble because now where do you go?
Yeah.
So great background. Now, one of the things that we've noticed here in our business here at Socal Classic Car Storage is you gotta be a mechanic.
You have to.
You have to be a mechanic. You got to have some minimal knowledge.
Yeah.
And you know what? We're just thankful that we've got that background. So one of the things I want to shout out and say thank you to our one of our advertisers, and but it's fascinating, when we talk to you, that you've got a great background of working with your hands, and so do we, and so I think that's so important, just to have that background.
Yeah,
so important. So let me give a shout out here. Our friends at C-Tech lead the way in the care and maintenance of vehicle batteries. C-Tech's unparalleled knowledge and continuous investment in innovation means they offer high quality, reliable chargers that are effective, easy to use, and most importantly, safe for the user and their car's electric system. We know because we use a ton of them out there. If you come by our shop, you'll see them plugged in everywhere. The quality of C-Tech's products make them the trusted company of the world's most recognizable car brands. I'm sure you've seen them all over the place.
Oh, I love C-Tech.
Absolutely. So that includes Audi and Bentley, and you mentioned BMWs, Corvettes, Fords, Ferraris, Maserati, Mercedes, Porsche, to name a few, and numerous others. Get yours today at smartercharger.com. What else is in your garage? I didn't get a chance to ask you that. You got the
Wow.
Skyline, which is awesome, but just pick a couple. You got so many.
So let's do the Skyline section. 31, 32, 34, 35. So that's the Skyline. Porsche, I have a 993 4S, 996 GT3, 996 GT2, 997 GT3 RS, and the 991 GT3. BMW E46, E30 M3. I have an Allball, I have a Bentley R&Arch, and I have a Bentley Continental GT. I have a world lowest mileage RX-7. Was when I barn find is 1,200 miles. So I drive 100 miles every year for that car.
Just keep it
not all at once, but like 10 miles every week
to
keep the engine. Yeah. So the current's about 1,800 miles. Still world lowest mileage RX-7, 10th anniversary. Originally 1,200 made in the world. Let me see what else.
Did you see that white Bentley we have out there?
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
That thing, it's a 2013, but you'd never know it.
Yeah.
It looks brand new. You get in and you're like, close the door and you're like, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
It's like getting inside certain cars. As soon as you sit down in a Porsche, like your 993 or any of these.
You heard that noise.
You close the door, you're in the
noise.
seat, and you grab the shifter and you know exactly where you are. And you're like, I love where I'm at.
Exactly.
You get some really great cars from a driver experience standpoint.
Yeah.
Do you think that's one of the key things that you look for as a driving experience when you invest or purchase a car?
Yeah. I never buy them just because of for value purpose. I buy all the cars because I drove a lot on them. I have a 91 ASX also. It goes on and on. I got Ford Lightning, I got Miata, I got S2000, I Civic Type R. I'm lost somewhere in between. There's a few cars, Mini Coopers.
Wow, what fun. And one of the things that we know that you are challenged with is keeping these cars maintained, keeping them up to speed. It's you have to love the passion because it'll keep you extremely busy, or some people that help you.
Yeah.
And if you're not passionate about it, can be viewed as a pain in the ass. But I don't know.
And most of my cars are older cars, so you have to do a lot of work yourself.
Right. Yeah.
And going back to C-Tech, I love their products. I mean,
oh great.
I have all of them on C-Tech.
Do you really?
I had a different brand before. They have issues.
Yeah.
And C-Tech completely changed it saved me so much money on maintaining those batteries.
Well, one of the things I like about C-Tech is they've got that feature that allows you to refurbish.
Recondition.
Recondition, thank you. And that's the most important thing around here. If a battery gets really low.
Yeah.
And because a lot of these batteries, it's just hard to get them up once they go low, right?
Yeah. So they'll send a pulse of shocks
Is that what they do?
into the battery, so the plates inside the battery start vibrating again.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Then they redrain it, and if they fill up, they redrain. So actually, C-Tech, they actually saved me a lot of batteries. I had a lot of batteries, especially gel type batteries.
Yeah, gel.
Odysseys or Optima. People presume they're completely dead. They told me to throw it away. I say, all right, fine, I'm gonna throw it away. I'm gonna just put a high amperage C-Tech charger on there.
Does it every time. There you go, yourself $200 battery.
Yeah, and my RS, the battery's under for it's a gel battery Odyssey, and that thing's been under for like almost 10 years. It's unheard of.
It's a miracle. It's a miracle. It's like your dog, Bobo, behind us.
I know.
He's 14. I don't know if you guys can see Bobo, but he's back here enjoying the show. He's great. We love Bobo. We haven't got to know him very long. So let's talk a little bit about the Purist Group. This is really your baby.
Yeah.
You launched this in 2012, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And it's had a significant impact on thousands of young people. And I'll let you get into that. But what was the impetus behind it? How did you just decide to, start giving back, and why this organization? So kind of give us some background.
So the point of start giving back has a lot to do with my childhood. As I told you earlier, my childhood has been pretty rough. And originally, so Purist actually has been longer than 8 years. We officially established 8 years ago, but I've been doing charity work for about more than that, for 10 years plus, right? But before, we always do it on a smaller scale. Like, let's say, if I know you, you know me, I say, hey, I want to go help those kids over there. Let's everybody pitch in $200 and buy something, send it over during holiday time. Yeah. It started with that. Just me and about 10 friends, every year during holidays, we send over to certain community center, and we met those kids, know what they need, and we send over the supply they wanted. One thing lead to another. 2012, I decided to start a group to get more people involved. But the key thing is we never fundraise. We want supplies. So I never want to take other people's money. Ended up, I go buy a new set of rims. People go like, oh, wait a minute, you know.
Yeah.
But if I would ask you for diaper, I would ask you for school supplies.
Yeah.
I would ask you for shampoo and type of thing. Then most people are okay with that.
Yeah.
So one thing lead to another. We started doing that, and the whole car community started getting involved on it. We went from able to help maybe 20, 30 kids a year to end up right now, to fast forward to right now.
Right.
So this year, okay, without fundraising, we sent out close to 4,000 backpacks.
4,000.
And we delivered to those kids individually. Wow. Directly to their hands. So normally people buy a backpack, they buy pre-pack. So it's very thin, very light, and they're about
only last couple of weeks or whatever.
Yeah, they're about $12 a piece, right? So our backpack is because we have a member sending all the school supplies from all around the world. They can go Amazon and order. So I say you couldn't come to our events, but you will go to Amazon, order pencils and whatever, and send it to my warehouse. Then we have team of volunteer, about maybe 100 people, and purely volunteer
loading up the backpack
ourselves. So you're able to see on some of
I've done some of that work before.
Yeah, it's tough work.
Yeah, it's rewarding though. I mean, you
It's
feel
rewarding.
like you're making a difference. Like the one that I did, and I don't mean to interrupt, was for kids that have troubles during the weekend, going back and forth to school. Is pretty routine. But during the weekend is when they're vulnerable. Food, supplies, just the basics that we assume. So here children are, but you guys migrated away from toys, right? And not just toys, but now you do toys, plus you're doing food supplies and basic essentials that children need. Is that right?
So we've been doing, our toy drive gets bigger and bigger, right? Every year we collect about maybe 25 to 30,000 toys. So school supplies, our backpack is minimum weighs about almost 10 pounds.
No kidding.
It will pack up to the max, it's about this big. So one day I was paying out to the little kid. It was really tiny, like tilts over. And it was like, the mom and dad was like,
what do you got in there?
What are you getting? It's a huge backpack. Our backpack is this big. If you go look at all the pictures. But it's not just my effort. It's effort of everyone that's out there. They acknowledge what Purist has done. They decide to support that, which is very, very, very. When you see it, seriously, you have to go be there. And I'm just not very good with English because, like I told you, I ran away from home when I was 17. So my English level stops at pretty much at ESL level, right? And everything I learn how to speak, how to write is based on myself, and by reading, by teaching myself how to write and speak. And if you're able to create something that everybody pour their heart and soul into it and help you to accomplish that purpose, and it's meant for goodwill, and that's very, very heartwarming.
You say your English isn't very good, but what I find with the way you speak and your speaking style, I find myself leaning in and paying close attention. So, on the other hand, it's kind of, it's like listening to somebody with a strong accent.
Yeah.
Like, somebody who's from, whether it's Ireland or South Africa or wherever it is, it intrigues me. And so I'm more engaged with somebody like you with your speaking style.
I can always
so
carry
I'm not sure it's a liability.
I can always carry a little Chinese accent. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
But yeah,
So here you are, you're, 8 years into this, 11, I guess.
Well, officially 8 years, 2012.
Yeah.
We established it.
So it just keeps growing and growing and growing, and
we're
you're impacting more and more lives.
Yeah, and we're doing pretty much. So we're not just doing backpack event for the kids and toy drive we get about 20,000 toys every year minimum. Right. So we have 8,000 to 10,000 people come to our events at toy drive every year. And on top of that, we're doing blanket and supplies for the homeless to bring them shampoos and stuff like that. We used to walk on the street and deliver. Later on, it gets a little too crazy.
Dangerous. Yeah.
So we set up pickup station for the homeless to walk past us to grab
pick
supplies.
Up supplies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, COVID shut it down. But this year's 2020, but then we did a hurricane relief. Remember that one year Texas had a huge hurricane and no supplies can get in, people getting robbed. And I decided to send some supply down to Texas. And we ended up the owner of Tilly's which is a friend of mine, jumped in and gave us the truck, and we loaded a free truck full of supplies and went down to Texas. And
Awesome.
that was a Astro Stadium with it.
Yeah.
So we went there. Deliver us emergency supplies and waters to the front line. We did numerous events with Sheriff Department, with LAPD, CHP. CHP event was broadcasted by Channel 2 and 7, I think, every year during the holidays. We're official to partner with Channel 2 on that and CHP.
So what a legacy. I mean, we all spend our time trying to, be successful, whatever that means. And it means different things to different people. And I'm not sure there is a definition of that. But it sounds like you've created an incredible legacy to give back, to pay it forward almost.
Yeah.
To help kids that are in harm's way or, don't have the means. And it must deliver you a sense of, just goodwill and the fact that your life is so meaningful when you could have lost it riding a motorcycle on Willow Springs when you didn't know what the hell you were doing. Here you are making this incredible impact.
I think on top of that, we have to do event for the dogs and cats.
Oh, really?
Awesome. So we do adoption events, and also we get supplies to send it to a shelter because their budget's getting cut a lot. So we do a lot of kind of stuff. But the idea is it's not to create a legacy. It's if you have the power, if I were to give you the power, let's say this is the power. You drink this cup of coffee, and people will listen to you. And what would you use that power for? You want to be famous, you want to make money off people, or you want to use the power and the synergy to do something good for everybody. Good or evil, or somewhere in the middle in the spectrum. I never tell people that I'm a philanthropist because I don't think I am. I'm just a guy who's fortunate enough to inherit the ability of the trust of many, many people, tens and thousands of people globally. And if I want supply tomorrow, I'll get them in pallets to send it over. That's people. Purist simply shows the good side of the people, and it's telling people to do good. Simple stuff. I think again, it's a compliment not just to your commitment and your passion, but the effectiveness of your communication skills. And I know you probably, that's the last thing you think of, but we've had a lot of guests on our show, and one of the things that I notice about people that are, accomplished at what they do, whether it's philanthropy in this instance or business, is that there's no lack of clarity in their focus or what they're sharing. And so I get that same sense of energy and excitement and enthusiasm and incredible focus from you. So congratulations. Thanks, man. I know you don't want to hear it, but congrats. Yeah, it's actually, I will send this congrats out to everyone that supported this idea and this concept, including you, because coming on the podcast, like I said, if you have one person out there here today to go out and make a difference, it doesn't have to carry Purist name or not. You go out, do one good things to help one person make a difference, or even one dog off the street. You're making a difference today compared to what you didn't do compared to what you didn't do yesterday. And before we had you in as a guest, Jason and I were having this conversation about what can we do, what should we be doing to help others, and Jay, the director of the show, is heading down to Mexico to help out some less fortunate people, and he does that regularly. So I give my son a lot of credit. Actually, we did that too. We sending supply down to orphanage down to Ensenada and to Tijuana as well too. Awesome. So is there something unique about getting young people especially, involved in cars that keeps them out of harm's way, that maybe you've thought through deliberately, or you see it kind of looking through the rear view mirror and saying, wow, maybe cars are great vehicles to keep young people busy so they don't, go off, the beaten path and get into trouble and wind up making some decisions that they can't undo. I personally think education from the family side of it is very important. Like, see, to be honest, if you get a young person when they first start driving a key to a car, most likely they'll get into trouble. It's how they were disciplined and taught within their family and to respect the bond between themselves and their parents. Like let's say if I have a good parents, to be honest, I used to get in a car and drive crazy, right? Because I didn't have a good childhood with my parents. But I also seen a lot of kids that were going out like driving really fast. They go, no, I don't want to drive fast. It's my dad's car. I want to respect this relationship between me and my dad. And that when I was younger, would be like, oh, come on, man, you chicken. Come on, man. Come on and drive fast with us. Now I look at those kids. They're like, wow,
you're impressed.
I was super impressed, right? Think about it. And what creates that? Definitely is not spanking or hitting the kids. It's actually how you teach your kid and what your ethics value are, what your principle in life is all about. If you can teach them patiently, they understand that, they'll respect the relationship between father and son or son and mother. And that's more important than hitting your kids or putting them down. And, it's educating them how to respect things in ethic value.
Well, my father's passed, so I'd like to tell him that this is a valuable lesson and you don't need to hit your kids with the belt. But no, anyway, all kidding aside, that didn't hurt. I always used to say, that didn't hurt. Yeah. My sisters would always rap me out, though. I got to be honest with you. My dad come home from a long day. Dad, Dean was cussing at us. And I'm like, I was not, but they knew exactly how to get me in trouble.
Yeah.
Back then, corporal punishment was pretty popular. So, hey, I survived, but it's great to see that not only have you survived all this tumultuous, challenging, upbringing, that nobody would want any of that, but you've turned that around and really just, used it as kind of a, almost a launch point to help others that are less fortunate. And you sound like you're such an advocate for good parenting and doing the right thing when you could arguably be bitter and angry and, have a victim mindset about where you've been. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
You've not allowed that to happen, but it's probably very intentional on your part. And you should be pretty excited about the person you become.
A lot of, don't get me wrong. I do have my dark periods, right? When there was a period of time that I absolutely couldn't understand why my parents do what they're doing to me. But after they both passed away, and I learned not to hold grudges in my life anymore, because that's making my life tougher to see clarity.
Yeah, the grudges.
Yeah, the grudges, and because you hate everything around you. That's the toughest thing to let go.
Yeah, sure is. Yeah. So, what about social media, real quick?
Okay.
You and I had a lot of conversations before we started the official podcast today.
True.
About social media and your associates as well. How influential or is that as a lever in enabling this platform, Purity, to really get the message out or to mobilize people? I mean,
yes,
it would seem to be a great integral part of any charitable organization and effort.
So it's very interesting. Pure social media is actually quite young. And my personal social media is actually quite young too. I think I only do it for about 2-3 years, maybe around there. At the time when I'm doing this, I don't want to be for me, I never want to be on the front or be a face of Purist. Right. I don't think Purist should have an icon. I think Purist should be the way it is. People should recognize the logo, not just this one individual. Yeah. It's not about heroism. It's not trying to create a Marvel, Superman, or Batman type of thing, because you have to think of this. If I no longer here, what's going to happen to Purist?
Will it live on? Will it
exactly? Yeah. So I always believe that you have to make people believe that Purist is for other people. So when we start doing Purist social media, because all my moderator team, I have a huge moderator team. They're actually all volunteer their time to monitor Purist, because Purist is so big now. We have 7,000, 8,000 selected members in US. We have an Asia division now. We have
impressive,
and we're gonna soon have an East Coast division too. So think about it. All these people volunteer their time away from their family to be part of the Purist and make sure it runs well. So it's never a single person. It's not if Sean Lee goes on the keyboard every day and answer all the questions and trying to make sure everything's okay. No, it's a big group of people that volunteer their time. They're not getting paid for it, but their effort gets put behind the scene, and everybody sees it's only Sean. So it's not fair. So it's very not fair to them.
Well, I think you're the face of the organization because you're, the founder. Yeah. But I think what you're conveying, at least to me and the audience, is that the growth and the evolution and the future of it isn't dependent on Sean for its success today or in the future, which is great.
It shouldn't be.
Okay.
It should be people that believe that doing good to other people, right, and that's what caused the growth. Yeah. So social media wise, yes, it does Purist a lot of good recently. Yeah. A lot of people are starting noticing about us, And that's why we're sitting here today, partially because of social media.
Oh, for sure.
And Purist is not, we never bought followers. We never purposely trying to get, the social media is simply we use to get our messages out faster than about our events, about our passions, or about the people within the community that they do have a passion. They like you guys, you understand what Purist is all about. I think in the future we will do a lot of collaboration events.
Yeah, and we wouldn't have known about you, I don't think, if it wasn't for social media.
Yeah.
So I give it a lot of credit. So one of the things that, I want to, talk about one of our other sponsors here too. And we big advocates of social media, obviously. But so this podcast is also brought to you by Socal Classic Car Storage right here in the lovely city of Laguna Hills. We've got a couple of warehouses. We offer secure white glove vehicle storage and extensive concierge services. In addition to storage, our expert sales staff offers consignment services for those looking to sell their cars. For more information, come visit us in Laguna Hills or find us at socalcarstorage.com or facebook.com/SoCal Car Storage. Well, Sean, great talking about social media. I think, we're in our infancy. I always feel like I'm in my infancy, learning all about that. And it's so, there's so much to learn every day. One of the guys that I like to, have mentor me, and he's very kind, is Sean Davis from Autotopia, LA.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And I'll call him up and he'll just say, yeah, I learned that too, but here's what I did. And so to feel comfortable in that environment, you really have to collaborate with others. It's kind of like school. Yeah. When you're in school, you think you know everything, you think you're doing it right. And then you start talking to how about other people studying and getting a study group, and you're like, wow, I'm screwing that all up. So I think it's a very collaborative thing, even though it seems very isolating when you're doing it. So
Sean's a great guy.
He is an awesome guy. Shout out to you, Sean, Autotopia LA, the gang over there, man. They're blowing it up. So back to where you were born. You were born in Taiwan.
Yes.
And spent your early years there. What's the car scene like in a country like Taiwan? I mean, I have no clue.
There's no car scene.
None.
There's transportations there.
Just basic transportation.
Let me rephrase that. In my days in Taiwan, owning a car is a luxury, super luxury.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it has to be very, very wealthy to have that. So, but nowadays, these days, it's completely different. Now,
time's starting to change.
Yeah, and people can afford to buy some pretty crazy, decent cars now. So here's two things. You create a culture, you gotta have a long history, right? From the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. But Taiwan never had that. Same thing with China, never had that, right? So they can only buy into what's trendy right now. So yes, there are a lot of people has a lot of McLarens, a lot of Ferraris, and a lot of unique cars in Taiwan. But you gotta know, pre-1980s, they don't manufacture their own cars, and they don't allow cars to be imported. But very low, and their taxation and tariff is very, very high. So a $20,000 car here goes back to Taiwan and becomes $70,000, $80,000.
So it's easier to buy a $100,000 car brand new than it is to go import.
Yeah, so $100,000 car here in Asia will be $300,000. So nobody really can afford it, and so the license plate is also very expensive.
I've heard about the license plate.
Yeah, so here they actually made it very, very. Recent year they made it more convenience because WTO, World Trade Organization, they made the tariff more easy to accept. So there's a lot of great collection of cars in Taiwan now, and there's a few racetracks, but currently they don't have too much of car cultures.
Okay,
that's the thing. Here you got people like C10, you have beautiful
Mustang
Club, Bel Air, Fox Body, the 442 Oldsmobile, the Pontiac. They don't understand any of that, so they have very limited. Because you got to know, you have to be in the culture to understand what that is. They walk in and they'll understand. Trust me, 10 years from now, nobody's going to know about Buick, Oldsmobile, Pontiac.
That's right. Yeah.
And they're great brands. Yeah.
Jay and I were talking about this morning. He said, Dad, you're old group of people and you're muscle cars, those cars. Yeah. We were looking at a Cuda, 1970 Cuda Hemi, sold for like $140,000 at an auction the other day. And 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, those were $300,000.
Yes.
So I understand exactly what you're talking about. But the reason why I brought this up about Taiwan is because your organization, Purity, is talking about
Purist.
getting involved in there.
Yeah.
Purist, I'm sorry. So tell us about that evolution and where you're going with that.
Oh, that's interesting. So So yeah, I'm originally from Taiwan. Taiwan is still a lot of part of the country, and a lot of kids needs help.
Yeah.
So a long time ago, I went back to Taiwan. I was flipping through news. I saw a kid that she's getting very good grades in school, but she lives with her grandmother. The grandmother has to go out. They were in poverty, so grandmother has to go out and sell noodles every day. It makes every bowl of noodles is
Pennies.
like maybe $1, or she has to sell a lot of that. And this 80-year-old lady goes on the street trying to sell food so the kid can go to school, and the kid goes to school in like torn up shirts and shoes. And I always want to go back, nothing political, but I always want to go back and say, since I already did so much for the community within the United States,
Right.
which is I'm an American citizen. I love what I'm doing right now. I wish I can generating a platform to go back to where I came from and to help the people over there too. I just don't believe that if people, especially the kids that wanted to learn, want to be better, they should allow a chance to not in a way like that. That's what I believe.
Well,
So
that's awesome. So we look forward to learning more about as this evolves, and
yeah.
you find a way to make this happen. And I'm sure logistically, it sounds like a total nightmare.
No, it's actually getting a lot of traction and support.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it has, like I said, it has to be coming from people's heart. So I have a lot of very, very top tier Taiwan businessmen.
Oh, okay.
When they came here, they're actually companies all publicly traded, but they're all big car collectors. Now here's social media. That's where it come in. So in Taiwan's many famous, actually in Asia right now, there's a lot. They know the story about Purist. They came to us. They start talking about. They do a lot of YouTube episodes. Actually, they don't call it YouTube. They call it Weibo, which is their Facebook.
Yeah.
So a lot, and they talk about a lot about what we're doing here, and they really pushing for somebody to have this entity going back to Asia, and bring the spirit back.
So you're
here.
getting some pull, not just you
A
pull.
lot of pull.
That's awesome. So,
huge amount.
So you don't have to overcome all the resistance. You've got people that
Yeah.
are actually helping you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is great.
Sponsorship wise, and
Awesome.
they really because Purist is an old name now. We're doing this officially for 8 years now. So people can check out your reference and see if they're BS. And if they understand who you really are, they jump right in. And
Oh, really? Okay.
yeah, it's pretty cool. It's really cool.
Hey, so one of the things I want to talk to you about is you've had the opportunity to drive some pretty awesome cars. You got an awesome car collection you took us through. But we had Peter Nam on from Gunter Works on our, I think it was about 2 months ago. Yeah. And he was a great guest. And, as we learn more and more about Gunter Works and this 400R Porsche, and they're bespoke and they're awesome, and it blows my mind what he does with a 993. It looks like, based on your Instagram page, you had an opportunity to drive one.
Yeah.
Now, A, how'd you get the opportunity? And B, what'd you think of the car?
So I worked with Peter way before this project started, and we're really good friends from the car world. And I remember that night he texted me, and we started chatting about creating this particular car. So I gave him a lot of inputs on the cars.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So I used to do a lot of racings on Porsche as well too. Yeah. So I started talk about a lot of parameters that he's looking at, and he has a target goal, the weight, the performance of the car, the horsepower of the car. And he wants to be able to, it's like a checklist, right? So I want car to be lightweight, less than 2,400 pounds, done. Horsepower, 450 horsepower, done. Reliable, done. So it's a very long checklist. And he's able to go through all the obstacles to create that. He's actually somebody I look up a lot to him because he's so young. And for him to jump into this huge project, the fail rate is really, really high. There's so many car makers out there, even though they have huge money behind them, they fail.
I heard some of them don't even make money. These bespoke,
Yeah.
Porsche, Outlaw, blah, blah, just they're not making money. They're doing what they love. They're passionate.
Exactly.
But, Peter's making one a month, roughly, I think. So, you got to be incredibly disciplined. And it just seems like, because I'm an old aerospace guy, I know what it takes to invest in tooling and overhead and get to a point where you get a return on investment. So I marvel at the courage of just doing it, of making the decision to move forward, knowing the obstacles you're up against.
That's what's the cool thing about Peter.
I mean, that is so cool. Like, apparently he didn't get the message that he was supposed to be afraid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's why I love Peter, because for his age, a younger generation, he's someone a younger generation should look up to because he has a dream. He put it on the table, then he executed.
Yeah, right.
He like you said, he's not afraid of fail. He just say, I want to create this. I go like, there's a lot of obstacles you have to overcome though, and you go, okay. Then he's so
no
yeah.
fear.
So when every time he has a new car coming out, has new setup, then he let me play around with it, and I give him my notes on what I think of the car. Then he do some adjustment to the car and kind of whatever I can do to help him to make the car better. And
well, that's one of the things I admire about him is that he's got a number of people. He took that same green one that you drove, and he took it out there to Willow Springs, and I think he had Dwayne DeMett take it out and flog it against another. I can't remember the brand of the Porsche, but I'm like, there's people that are not only trying to deliver something unique, but they're trying to make sure that it meets and exceeds expectations. Yes. And I think he's doing that. And my hat's off to him, not just for the risks that he's taken, but because he's so passionate about it. I think he's delivering. And
he's surpassing the expectation. You have an air-cooled Porsche that's still a conventional air-cooled is air-cooled, It's beating a 991 GT3 on lap times.
Amazing.
That's not easy to do. 991 GT3 has a state-of-the-art PDK transmissions, and while his car is still running on conventional a manual 6-piece.
Well, yeah, that was one of the conversations we had with him. It was funny. I'm like, what's the big deal with this 993, this air-cooled thing? And he really explained that to me and boiled it down in terms of, I think from his perspective, it's about the noise, the feel, the feedback, and
let's give an example.
The basics, just the raw basics. None of this turbo, supercharged, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
It's just
naturally aspirated.
Naturally aspirated. It's so important. And I said, well, what's the big deal with naturally aspirated? He said, you can hear it.
You can hear it. You can hear the sound of the engine, the anger of the engines.
The anger of the engine. Because he didn't say that, but I mean that makes sense.
Yeah,
right?
because that carries. The engine noise carries emotion with the driver itself. Today you're in a good mood, you drive slow, you rev it a little higher just to cruise. When you're really angry, you want to constantly be in red line. You want a car in sync with you. You want to shift after shift after shift. You want to find a winding road just to wind that engine out, keep on the high RPM, let it scream again non-stop. So it's an instrument. It's actually a music instrument that taps directly into your vein of your blood if you're passionate about cars. Yeah. That's why I love driving cars.
I love that. Yeah.
Things like this. What's your favorite engine sound? Any car?
Well, we've got a few 427 Roush motors out here, and,
cool.
and they're incredible. But I'll tell you what, that flat plane Coyote motor inside that Mustang 350R out there, that's an incredible sound factory.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many of them out there. I could tell you.
Yeah.
They're, I love the 70. You mentioned the 70 olds 442.
Yeah.
That's a big 455 block. So big block. Motor with a big cam. I mean, I love that. I think
the rough,
just the lope or
mechanical noise.
Yeah,
beautiful. So now imagine that noise, right? You have that car over there. You started that car, or you want to watch that car actually on TV screen. The same car, coming from TV screen. You're looking at it. You're not involved with it.
No, you're not.
The car's right there. You sit in there. You rev the engines. You're right there. You can hear the vibration from the engine. The sound will bounce off the wall, hit your ear. That's where.
When that GT comes in off the street and straight pipes. And it's just a 427, but it shakes these buildings.
Yeah.
It doesn't you don't hear the noise. Next thing you know, all these people come out of their buildings and migrate towards vehicles. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Peter created that very well.
Peter. Awesome. Cool. So we do have a JDM, I don't know, not really a unicorn, but out here in the shop at Socal Classic Car Storage, we've got that 1995 twin turbo Supra you saw out there, black. What's all the excitement about that car? I mean, I love the look of it. There's things about it that are typical 90s, but the back end with the taillights is cool. Was it that they actually executed twin turbos and an inline engine before the technology was available with chips and computers and it actually performed well? What's all the excitement about?
So inline engine has been around for a long time.
Right.
It's not invented by Japanese.
No.
But it's reliable because it's actually it's very easy to deal with compared to V, right?
Yeah.
So, but also the problem is that straight inline has a lot of vibration problem. However, to go back to this particular car, okay, there's quite a few inline 6 engine that's very, very famous coming out from Japan side. You have the RB26 in the Skyline. Then for Toyota side was this engine called 2JG. So let's take just these two engines, right? RB26 Skyline, it's very well known, steel block, aluminum head, just like 2JG. Now where the difference comes in is the 2JG comes with full forged internal, while the RB26 are not. So they're prone to have a much more horsepower potentials. So back in the days, everybody was building this to 700, 800, 900,000 horsepower monsters because the engine is able to take it. Even though, imagine back in the day, you can buy one of this for, I think, about $50,000.
They were expensive. I remember when they came out.
They were not compared to, but now you bolt on a new set of turbo, you spend another 10 grand there, you have a Ferrari and Lamborghini killer back in the days.
That's true.
You have a 500, 600 horsepower monster still running on 91 gas for $60,000, $65,000. You go to drag strip, you kill a lot of domestic cars with 1,000 horsepower because the chip, it's
so you could build that car basically, and in fact, factory, it was great.
Yeah.
So one of the other things that I had a GS 300 inline six, same engine,
no, just non-turbo,
but all my buddies had the GS 430.
Yeah,
and they were like, so I was at work and they'd be like, hey man, I just put some struts on mine, I put some sway bars on mine, I put some lowering springs on mine. You got to get out there. So even though I wasn't into the JDM scene, every couple of months I'm like, I got to do what? Oh yeah, you got to, so next thing you know, I'm taking mine to the shop and just this straight six. It's funny how you can get caught up in this stuff, and you don't even know why. But there's this peer pressure to participate. But by the time I was done with that car, it was quite a fun little car to drive, even though it was just a straight six. So I could really appreciate the platform and the day when those cars were really
plenty of parts,
street monsters.
Plenty of parts, tunability, and plus reliability. The car can run 200,000, 300,000 miles without major rebuilds. It's great. It's a great car.
Yeah. Well, that's what the Japanese taught us all. We sent them all the technology and all the people like Deming and told them how to, ensure quality and reliability, and we ignored them. So we sent them over to Asia, and they kicked our butt for a while. And maybe we're back. I think we are. But
I think we are.
In the end, I think it was a great lesson because that's how you learn, right?
Yeah. Competition creates better manufacturing process.
So we're running out of time, unfortunately, which I always hate because I just want to go all damn day. So I don't know about, hopefully our listeners do too, or our watchers. But what's the best way for folks to get in touch with you and learn more about yourself, which is important, and the Purist Group, which is probably even more important?
So Purist Group has an IG account. It's real simple. It's PURIST GROUP. And my personal Instagram is Seanlee, SEANLEE 768, and that's where we post a lot of the events that we're going to be hosting. Our event flyer is going to be up there. It's very updated. We do have a website. It's called puristgroup.com, PURISTGROUP.com, and where if you want to join us, you can go to we're actually on a Facebook group. You can find us on Facebook, and when they ask you questions, we have a questionnaire you want. Do mention that you heard it from here, and we'd be glad to have you guys coming here. Again, Purist is not just a car group; it's actually more about doing good for other people and doing charity events and able to help other people. Of course, your car guy is a big plus. No motorcycle guys, not just car guy, or boat or airplane.
So I'm told, well, thank you very much. You've been an awesome guest. We appreciate you making your way here and giving us the time. It's so great to hear your story and all that you're doing. And then, one of the things that we absolutely hear time and time again, the cars are really just vehicles, but the stories, the people that are involved in the car community are really what's unique. And I find that to be incredibly true today. So thank you. Thank you so much. I feel so special.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, we appreciate it. I know our customers and watchers do as well. Our viewers, our listeners, all of those.
Great place to be. If you don't know about this place, you come and check it out.
Absolutely. And for those of you watching us today, don't forget all our episodes are on our YouTube channel, the Socal Car Scene. Remember, that's all separate words. Don't make that mistake. Where you can see all of these videos from like the one today with Sean, which is awesome, and yours truly, and of course the rest of our guests. Please watch, follow, subscribe, and Never miss an episode. Probably most important, after subscribe. And if you prefer to listen to these episodes, please go to all your favorite podcast platforms, Apple, iTunes, Stitcher, Buzzsprout, Google Play, and the Socal Car Storage /media page. Once again, thank you, everybody. And that's a wrap.
It's awesome.